The villa sat atop a private cliffside, its sprawling veranda overlooking the turquoise waters of the Caribbean. It was the kind of place where lovers rekindled flames and secrets remained buried, perfect for their 10th anniversary getaway, or as I had planned it, the setting for a reckoning. The sun was just setting when we arrived. Vanessa, my wife, stepped out of the sleek black SUV provided by the resort, her white sundress fluttering in the sea breeze. Her laugh, loud and hollow, rang out as she admired the view. I played the part of the doting husband, smiling warmly and wrapping an arm around her waist. "Only the best for my girl," I murmured. Leaning in close, she responded with a coy smile, her lips brushing my cheek. Inside the villa, the staff had prepared everything as instructed. Fresh flowers adorned the polished mahogany table, their scent blending with the salty tang of the ocean air. A bottle of champagne sat chilling in a silver bucket, alongside a handwritten note from the concierge. Vanessa plucked it up, giggling at the sentiment as though she hadn't been scheming behind my back for months. "It's perfect," she said, twirling around the room. "You've really outdone yourself. This time, only for you," I replied, my voice even. She did notice my lingering gaze as I tracked her every move. Her phone, always an extension of her hand, was clutched tightly, her fingers quick to text or swipe whenever she thought I wasn't looking. I knew exactly who she was texting. Dinner came first. The villa's private chef whipped up an elaborate spread, seared lobster tails, saffron risotto, and grilled vegetables glistening with olive oil. Vanessa complimented the meal between shallow conversation and meaningless laughter. Her charm worked on most people, but not on me anymore. Not since I discovered the texts, the photos, the late-night phone calls she thought I didn't hear. I asked as dessert was served. I poured the champagne myself, making sure her glass held the lion's share. I watched her lift it, the golden liquid catching the candlelight, as she took a long, deliberate sip. "To us," she said, raising her glass. "To us," I echoed, my tone betraying nothing. The night unfolded as planned. We moved to the villa's spacious lounge where plush sofas surrounded a crackling fireplace. I made sure to play the attentive husband, asking about her week and her plans for the month ahead. She lied effortlessly, spinning tales about work stress and upcoming meetings, none of which I doubted involved actual work. Eventually, Vanessa began to falter. Her eyelids grew heavy, and her speech slowed, slurring around the edges. "I think I need to lie down," she mumbled, placing a hand to her forehead. "Of course, love. I'll help you." I guided her up the stairs to the master suite, where the bed had already been turned down. She collapsed onto the mattress without protest, her breathing steady as the sedative took hold. I stood over her for a moment, watching as her perfectly curated facade dissolved into vulnerability. I retrieved her phone from the nightstand, careful not to disturb her. Unlocking it was laughably easy. The passcode hadn't changed since we first met. My birthday. A flood of notifications lit up the screen, all from the same contact, Jason. I scrolled through the messages, flirty banter, explicit photos, plans for tomorrow night when she claimed she'd be meeting an old college friend. The confirmation was all there, wrapped up in neat little text. I slipped the phone into my pocket and stepped onto the balcony. The cool night air helped steady my pulse as I looked out over the dark expanse of ocean. The trap had been set. She had no idea what was coming. The night before, the villa was quiet save for the rhythmic sound of Vanessa's breathing from the master's breathing from the master. Bedroom, she was out cold, sprawled on the bed with her sundress still clinging to her. The sedative worked like a charm, would keep her in a deep sleep for hours. I shut the door softly behind me and went downstairs to the lounge. Her phone burned like a guilty secret in my pocket. Sitting down in the leather armchair, I unlocked it again, taking my time to explore every corner of her deceit. Jason, the smug bastard, had his name all over her phone. Texts, photos, emails, even a calendar reminder for tomorrow night that read private dinner with Ott. My teeth clenched as I scrolled through the messages. They read like a bad romance novel. "Can't wait to see you tomorrow. It's been too long since I held you. Baby, I'll wear that dress you like, you know the one? Wish I could kiss you right now, but he probably wouldn't notice." The texts were accompanied by photos of her, selfies in lingerie, seductive poses on our bed, and one particularly bold picture taken in the bathroom of our home. It wasn't just betrayal. It was mockery done under my nose. I checked the timestamp of their last exchange. 20 minutes before dinner. She had been texting him while smiling at me across the table. Among the messages I found their plan for tonight, Jason was staying at a nearby hotel and they'd arranged to meet at the resort's bar before heading back to his room. Perfect. I closed her phone and leaned back in the chair, taking a moment to steady my thoughts. This wasn't about emotions anymore. Those had burned out long ago. This was about precision, about turning their plans into their undoing. I grabbed the blazer I draped over the arm of the chair and slipped it on. Checking my reflection in the mirror, I adjusted my tie, ensuring I looked sharp but approachable, the sort of man who wouldn't raise suspicion. By the time I reached the resort's bar, it was nearing 11:00 p.m. Filled with the hum of low conversation and the clink of glasses, I scanned the room carefully, my eyes landing on him almost immediately. Jason. He was seated near the far wall, dressed casually in a linen shirt and khakis. Sipping a whiskey, with the air of a man who thought he had won. He had that polished, arrogant look, probably the type Vanessa thought was an upgrade from me. My fists clenched at my sides, but I forced myself to relax. This wasn't the moment for fury. Instead, I approached the bar and ordered a scotch. From the corner of my eye, I saw Jason glance at me, likely sizing me up. I made sure to let my gaze linger just enough to invite a conversation without seeming deliberate. Asked as I raised my glass toward him in a casual toast. He smiled, leaning back in his chair. Not too busy. Not too busy. Just here for a little R&R. Same here, I replied smoothly, taking a seat at the stool next to him. Here, something like that, he said with a grin that screamed self-satisfaction. The bastard was cocky, and it worked in my favor. I let the conversation flow naturally, steering it with careful questions. It didn't take long for Jason to start bragging. Men like him always did. Met someone special here? I asked, playing the part of a curious stranger. He chuckled, swirling his whiskey. Yeah, you could say that. She's incredible, smart, gorgeous, married, but you know, not really happy at home. Married? I echoed, feigning surprise. He smirked. Some guys just don't know how to take care of a woman. But hey, their loss is my gain. As he spoke, I slipped my phone into my jacket pocket, recording every word. Jason was so absorbed in his own ego that he didn't notice. How long's this been going on? I asked. Speaking of which, he said, glancing at his watch, I should head up. Big night ahead. Good luck, I said, offering him a smile that didn't reach my eyes. He nodded, oblivious, and walked off toward the elevators. Seated for a few minutes, my mind racing with the possibilities. I had what I needed. The confession, the timeline, the details. But this was just the beginning. The doorway of the bedroom, watching her with a cold detachment. Tomorrow would be a day she'd never forget. The reckoning begins. The first light of dawn seeped through the sheer curtains of the villa. Vanessa stirred faintly, still under faintly lingering effects of the sedative. I had been up for hours, meticulously reviewing everything I'd gathered. Her phone rested beside mine on the table, its contents a goldmine of betrayal. The recording of Jason's bragging echoed in my ears. Ah, smug declaration of victory that only fueled my resolve. Today was the day everything would fall apart for them. I showered, dressed in crisp slacks and a tailored button-down, and poured myself a black coffee. The villa's modern, open-concept kitchen felt too bright and clean for the dark thoughts that clouded my mind. By the time Vanessa, groggy, stumbled out of the bedroom, I was leaning against the counter, looking every bit the loving husband ready to celebrate their 10th anniversary. Morning, beautiful, I said with a warm smile, handing her a glass of water. She blinked up at me, confused but tried to mask it. Air, I replied, my tone light and nonchalant. Vanessa sipped the water, her gaze flitting nervously to her phone on the table. She hadn't realized yet that it wasn't where she'd left it. I thought we'd spend the morning relaxing. Suggested. My bae hit the spa before our big anniversary brunch. She smiled weakly, nodding. That sounds nice. What she didn't know was that her big anniversary brunch was a carefully orchestrated setup. By the time the brunch began, there would be no room left for lies. By mid-morning, I excused myself to check on the arrangements and left Vanessa lounging by the infinity pool. My real destination was the resort's other wing, where Jason's suite was located. He had sent Sweet was located. Hooray! A text earlier. See you soon, babe. Can't wait to get out of here with you. I smiled grimly as I walked. Jason wouldn't be getting out of here with anyone today. I made my way to his door, knocked twice, keeping my expression neutral as he opened it. Jason looked surprised but not alarmed. Hey, he said. Can I help you? I extended a hand, my grip firm and unyielding. Nice to meet you, Jason. I'm Vanessa's husband. The color drained from his face, but he recovered quickly, stepping back and motioning me inside. His arrogance wouldn't let him run. Not yet. I guess I shouldn't be surprised, he said with a nervous chuckle. What do you want? Just a chat, I said, closing the door behind me. I gestured to the armchair by the window. Sit. Jason hesitated, then obeyed, his bravado cracking just slightly. I stayed standing, towering over him, letting the silence stretch until he squirmed. I know everything, I began, my voice low and calm. The texts, the photos, the little rendezvous you had planned, all of it. He opened his mouth to protest, but I raised a hand. Don't insult me by pretending otherwise. Have the proof, your words, your messages, even your face on camera at the bar last night. Jason's eyes widened, and for the first time, he looked genuinely afraid. Look, man, I didn't mean, stop, I interrupted, my voice sharp. Didn't mean what? To destroy my marriage, to humiliate me, to screw my wife in my bed. He shrank back, his bravado evaporating. It wasn't like that. No, I leaned in closer, my voice dropping to a dangerous whisper. Then what was it like, Jason? Explain it to me. He fumbled for words, his composure crumbling under the weight of my glare. I let him stammer for a few moments before cutting him off. You're going to do exactly what I tell you, I said, and if you deviate from it, even slightly, I will destroy you, your career, your reputation, everything you value. I'll take it all. Do you understand me? Jason nodded quickly, sweat beading on his forehead. Okay. What do you want? First, I said, pulling a folded sheet of paper from my pocket, you're going to sign this. The paper detailed a full confession of his affair with Vanessa, complete with date, locations, and his acknowledgement of wrongdoing. I watched as he read it, his hands trembling. You can refuse, I said casually, but then I'll let my lawyer handle this. And trust me, I'll make sure the fallout is public and permanent. Jason signed. Good, I said, taking the paper and tucking it into my jacket. Now you're going to pack your things and leave. You're not going to see Vanessa again, and you're definitely not going to contact her. What if she won't? My tone left no room for argument. Jason stared at me. Stared at me. Confidence shattered. You're not going to hurt her, are you? I smirked. Not in the way you're thinking, but she's going to learn a lesson today, one neither of you will forget. With that, I turned and walked out, leaving him pale and shaking in his overpriced suite. When I returned to the villa, Vanessa was waiting by the pool, oblivious. She greeted me with a smile that I didn't return. Ready for brunch? I asked. She hesitated, sensing a shift in my demeanor. Is everything okay? Never better, I replied, holding out my hand to help her up. As we walked toward the resort's event hall, I could feel her unease growing. She didn't know it yet, but her world was about to collapse. The public confrontation, the event hall was set up exactly as I had instructed. Crisp white tablecloths, glittering chandeliers, and an array of floral centerpieces arranged with immaculate precision. To anyone walking in, it would appear to be a grand celebration. A crowd was already gathered. Family, friends, and even a few co-workers we rarely saw outside holiday parties. The chatter was light, filled with laughter and compliments about the venue. Vanessa, arm linked with mine, paused at the entrance. Her painted smile faltered for a fraction of a second as her eyes scanned the room. She hadn't been expecting a crowd, and the realization flickered in her expression. Who are all these people? She asked, her tone confused but carefully measured. I gave her a warm smile, masking the fire simmering underneath. Just a little surprise for our anniversary. I wanted to make this one special. Her hesitation was brief. Vanessa was adept at slipping into character. Within moments, She was gliding through the crowd, shaking hands and exchanging pleasantries as though she were born for the spotlight. The perfect wife, the doting spouse. I watched her work the room, her charm work the room, in full force, and wondered how many of these people would still look at her the same way in an hour. The brunch itself was a lavish affair, with servers moving seamlessly between tables, delivering trays of mimosas and plated delicacies. Vanessa sat beside me at the head table, her laughter ringing out occasionally as she humored small talk from our guests, but I could see the subtle tension in her posture, the way her fingers tapped against the stem of her glass, the way her gaze darted to her phone when she thought no one was looking. From across the room, I caught the eye of my confidant and friend, Detective Marcus Reed. He gave me a subtle nod, confirming that everything was in place. Marcus had been instrumental in gathering evidence, using his police connections to ensure everything was legally obtained. His presence added another layer of legitimacy to what was about to unfold. Halfway through the meal, I stood, tapping my glass to call for attention. The hum of conversation quieted, all eyes turning toward me. "Thank you all for coming today," I began, my tone light and sincere. "This is a special occasion for Vanessa and me. 10 years is a milestone worth celebrating, and I couldn't years is a milestone worth celebrating. Have done it without the support of everyone in this room." There was polite applause, and I gave a small nod of acknowledgement before continuing. "But anniversaries aren't just about looking back. They're about looking forward, about honesty, trust, and the bonds we share. And today, I'd like to share something with all of you. Something deeply personal." I felt Vanessa stiffen beside me, her smile frozen in place. "I've prepared a little presentation," I said, gesturing toward the projector screen that had been set up behind us. Vanessa's hand shot out, gripping my wrist. Her nails dug into my skin as she whispered, "What are you doing?" I ignored her, turning my attention to the staff, who dimmed the lights and started the video. The first slide was a photo of Vanessa and me on our wedding day. She looked radiant in her gown, her smile full of promise. It was followed by a montage of other happy moments, vacations, birthdays, the birth of our daughter. The room murmured their appreciation, some even dabbing at tears. Then the tone shifted. The next slide was a screenshot of a text conversation, one between Vanessa and Jason. Her sweet nothings filled the screen, followed by photos that left no room for doubt. Gasps rippled through the crowd as the text stream continued, growing more explicit. "Vanessa," her mother's voice broke the silence, trembling with disbelief. "What is this?" Vanessa's mask shattered. "It's not what it looks like," she blurted out, rising to her feet. "Oh, but it is," I said calmly. Stepping forward, I tapped the laptop, and Jason's recorded voice filled the room. "Yeah, she told me she was ready to leave him. She's incredible, smart, gorgeous, married, but not really happy at home." Vanessa's face drained of color as the recording continued. Jason's smug confessions played out, detailing their affair and their plans to be together. The room erupted into chaos. Vanessa's father stood abruptly, his chair screeching against the floor as he barked. "Is this true, Vanessa?" "No," she screamed, her voice cracking. "It's not like that. He's lying. It's all fake." "Fake?" I echoed, pulling a neatly folded paper from my pocket. Let's see what Jason had to say about that. I unfolded the signed confession and held it up for all to see. This is Jason's written admission, detailing their entire affair. Signed it this morning. "So, Vanessa, tell me, was Jason lying about this too?" She stood there trembling, her eyes darting between her parents, her friends, and me. Tears streamed down her face, but no words came. Detective Marcus stepped forward, his presence commanding attention. "As a law enforcement officer," he said gravely, "I can confirm that all evidence presented here was legally obtained and verified." The crowd began to murmur, disgust and disappointment thick in the air. "I gave you everything," I said, my voice carrying over the noise. "Trusted you. I built a life with you, and this is how you repay me." Vanessa collapsed into her chair, burying her face in her hands. The room watched in stunned silence as I pulled a manila envelope from the table and placed it in front of her. "Inside," I said, "you'll find divorce papers. I've already signed them, so has Jason. He won't be fighting me for you." You'll also find my petition for full custody of our daughter. Don't worry, I included copies of all this evidence for the court. Please, she whispered, her voice hoarse. We can talk about this. There's nothing to talk about, Vanessa. My voice was cold, final. You made your choices, now you get to live with them. I turned to the room, meeting the stunned gazes of family and friends alike. Thank you all for coming. I hope this serves as a reminder of the importance of trust and the consequences of betrayal. With that, I walked out, leaving Vanessa sobbing at the table as her world crumbled around her. The final act, the murmurs in the event hall swelled as I made my way to the microphone. Vanessa hadn't moved, her face buried in her hands, her body shaking. The weight of judgment pressed heavily in the air as the guests, her parents, her friends, and even our daughter, shifted uncomfortably in their seats. This was the moment I had been building toward, the culmination of every careful step I'd taken to expose her for what she truly was. I tapped the microphone lightly, letting the sound cut through the room. The hall fell silent, all eyes now fixed on me. I want to thank everyone again for coming today, I began, my voice steady. I know many of you are wondering what just happened. Allow me to clarify. I gestured toward the screen behind me. You've all seen the messages, the photos, the proof of what Vanessa has been doing for months. She's been lying to me, to all of us. While I was planning this anniversary celebration, she was planning rendezvous with her lover, a man who, until this morning, thought he could walk away unscathed. I nodded toward the table where Vanessa still sat, her mascara smeared, her tears staining the once pristine white tablecloth. Vanessa, this is your chance. Do you have anything to say to defend yourself? Her head snapped up, her eyes wild and desperate. It's not true, she cried, her voice cracking. This is all some kind of setup? He's lying. I let her words hang in the air, the sheer audacity of her denial drawing gasps from the audience. Then I reached into my jacket and pulled out my phone. Ladies and gentlemen, I said, I'd like to play one last recording for you. I pressed play, and Jason's voice filled the room once again, his tone smug and self-assured. Yeah. She told me she's not happy at home. Said her husband doesn't make her feel special anymore, and she's ready to leave him. The recording continued, detailing their affair with chilling precision. Jason even described the lingerie she'd worn for him, the hotel rooms they'd booked, and the lies she'd spun to cover her tracks. The room erupted into whispers of disgust and shock. Vanessa's father, a man who had always looked at her with pride, now glared at her with a mix of fury and disappointment. Is this the kind of woman you've become? He bellowed, slamming his fist on the table. How could you do this to your family? Vanessa turned to him, her voice trembling. Dad, please. It's not what it sounds like. He's twisting everything. Her mother shook her head, tears streaming down her face. Stop lying, Vanessa. We all saw the messages. We heard the recording. There's nothing left to twist. Detective Marcus stepped forward again, his presence adding weight to the proceedings. As someone who's seen countless cases of infidelity and deception, he said, addressing the room, I can tell you that the evidence here is overwhelming. There's no room for reasonable doubt. I stepped back to the microphone, silencing the crowd with a raised hand. Vanessa has been given every opportunity to come clean, I said, my tone cold. But even now, she lies to her parents, to her friends, and to me. I turned to her, my gaze unwavering. You've destroyed this marriage. You've broken the trust we built over 10 years, and now you'll face the consequences. I pulled out a second envelope. This one thicker than the last. Inside this is everything the court will need to grant me full custody of our daughter. You've proven you can't be trusted. Not as a wife, and certainly not as a mother. Her eyes widened, and for the first time, genuine fear flashed across her face. No, you can't take her away from me, she cried, standing abruptly. I already have, I replied, my voice like ice. The evidence I presented today is more than enough to prove you're unfit. The lawyers will finalize it within days. The audience. I know this is shocking for many of you, but I refuse to let lies and betrayal define my life. And I certainly won't let them affect my child's future. At that moment, the door to the event hall opened, and 2 security guards stepped in. I had anticipated this. Vanessa's desperation, her attempts to lash out, Escort Mrs. Vanessa Morgan out of the premises, I instructed. The guards approached, their steps heavy on the polished floor. Vanessa's face contorted as they led her toward the exit, her screams echoing through the hall, a haunting reminder of the chaos she had brought into our lives. When the doors closed behind her, I faced the room once more. To those of you who supported me through this, thank you. To those who doubted me, I hope you now see the truth. I paused, scanning the faces of the stunned crowd. This chapter of my life is over. It's time to move forward. I stepped away from the microphone and walked toward the exit. The applause that followed was hesitant, scattered, but it didn't matter. I wasn't doing this for their approval. Outside the hall, the bright sunlight hit my face as I exhaled deeply. The weight of betrayal was gone, replaced by a sense of cold, calculated triumph. This wasn't the end, not yet, but it was the beginning of something new. The aftermath, the event hall was still buzzing with whispers and murmurs. As I walked out into the sunlight, the morning air, crisp and invigorating, felt sharper against my skin, as if the universe itself acknowledged the conclusion of this sordid chapter. I paused at the steps, letting the tension in my shoulders ease. Inside, Vanessa's cries and protests had faded into a distant hum, swallowed by the thick walls of the resort. By now, the villa would be cleared of her belongings. I had made arrangements for the staff to pack up her things and leave them at the front desk. She wouldn't be allowed back inside, ni note that she had a home to return to anymore. As I made my way toward the car waiting by the valet, my lawyer, James Caldwell, stepped forward from the shadows of the lobby. His sharp navy suit was as impeccable as ever, his expression calm and composed. It went as expected, I take it? He asked, falling into step beside me. Better, I replied. She tried to deny it first, but the evidence was overwhelming. The papers, everything we prepared, should hold in court without issue. James nodded, flipping through a folder he carried. The custody petition will move quickly with the evidence we've gathered. In today's events, the court will favor you. She won't have a leg to stand on. Good, I said firmly. We reached the car, and James handed me an envelope containing additional documents. These are the next steps. Once you've signed these, I'll file them first thing Monday morning. I'll keep you updated. I nodded, taking the envelope. James hesitated for a moment, studying my expression. Robert, he said, his tone softer. Are you sure you're ready for what comes next? Custody battles, dividing assets. It won't be easy. I looked at him, my jaw set. I didn't come this far to stop now. Detective Marcus approached us, his expression serious but satisfied. Everything went according to plan. He confirmed. The security footage from the resort has been secured as additional evidence. If she tries to claim coercion or manipulation, we have multiple witnesses and documentation. I nodded appreciatively. Couldn't have done this without your expertise. That's what friends are for, he replied, clapping a hand on my shoulder. Nobody deserves what she put you through. Justice was served today. The drive back to the villa was silent save for the sound of the tires on the winding roads. My thoughts were sharp, focused. Every detail of this plan had been executed with precision. But the final act was yet to come. At the villa, the staff had done their job efficiently. Vanessa's luggage was stacked neatly at the front desk, waiting for her to collect. I nodded at the concierge, who gave me a knowing look, but said nothing. Discretion was, after all, part of what I had paid for. Inside, the villa was calm and serene. The chaos of the morning a distant memory. I walked through the rooms, taking in the silence. The bedroom no longer held her perfume. The living room no longer bore her lingering presence. It was as though she had been erased, leaving behind only the faintest traces of what once was. Wife cheated. I destroyed her at our anniversary party with my detective friend. I went to the desk in the corner of the lounge and opened my laptop. The emails to the court-appointed psychologists were already prepared, outlining the reasons why I sought full custody of our daughter. Attached were the recordings, the photos, and the signed confession from Jason. As I hit send, I felt a sense of finality settle over me. This was more than revenge. It was a reclamation of my dignity, of my life, of my future. Later that evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, casting the villa in a warm golden glow, I sat on the terrace with a glass of bourbon in hand. The glass of bourbon in hand. Ocean stretched out before me. vast and unyielding. A reminder of how small and fleeting some things could be. A knock at the door broke the stillness. I opened it to find Vanessa standing there, disheveled and desperate. Her makeup was sweat smeared, her hair a tangled mess, and her eyes bloodshot from crying. "Robert," she began, her voice trembling. "Please, can we talk?" I leaned against the door frame, blocking her from entering. "What's there to talk about, Vanessa? You made your choices." She reached for my arm, but I stepped back. "I was stupid, okay? I wasn't thinking. I don't even care about Jason. It was a mistake." "Mistake?" I interrupted, my voice rising slightly. "You didn't trip and fall into months of lying, cheating, and humiliation. That's not a mistake, Vanessa. That's a pattern." Tears streamed down her face as she pleaded. "I'll do anything to fix this. Please, Robert, don't take our daughter away from me." I stared at her, my expression hard. "You didn't think about her when you were sneaking around, did you? Or when you sent those photos? Or when you told Jason you were ready to leave? You made your bed, Vanessa. Now you lie in it." Her shoulders sagged as the fight drained from her. She took a step back, her voice barely above a whisper. "Is there really no way back?" "No," I said coldly. "You burned it all to the ground." With that, I closed the door, shutting her out for the last time. The villa felt different now, quieter, almost peaceful. As I poured myself another drink, I allowed myself another drink. Small, satisfied smile. Vanessa's lies, her betrayal, her arrogance, they had all crumbled under the weight of truth. And while the road ahead would be challenging, I knew that with friends like Marcus and professionals like James by my side, would emerge stronger than before. The reckoning was complete.